Hi, my name's Chris Oliver and I'm Chief Executive at Lancashire and South Cumbria Foundation Trust. Welcome to my podcast. Throughout these episodes, you'll hear from inspirational colleagues across our organisation what it's like to deliver mental health, learning disability, autism and community services across our organisation. Hi everyone and welcome to the 8th episode of In Conversation with a CEO. In previous podcasts, we've focused on trusts, teams and services within the organisation, but today we're doing something slightly different. So I'm really pleased to be joined by Jake Mills, who is CEO of Chasing the Stigma charity. And so great to have Jake here with us today. We use Chasing the Stigma and we use the Hub of Hope. So I suppose, Jake, it's just over to you. Tell us a bit about Chasing the Stigma and Hub of Hope, where it came from. It'd be really good.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, and no pressure being the first outsider. So yeah, I'm the founder and chief exec of Chasing the Stigma. So Chasing the Stigma is a national mental health charity, and the Hub of Hope is a product of the charity. So what the Hub of Hope is now the biggest, most comprehensive directory of mental health services in the country. What the Hub of Hope was and where it began was a very simple spreadsheet that I was putting together in my bedroom in my mum's house about 10 years ago now. But so you know, how did that happen? How did that come about? Well, quite simply, it was through lived experience. Okay. So, you know, my background is not in mental health. I was not somebody who has studied mental health, gone to university to learn about mental health, or a practitioner in any way, shape or form. My background was in stand-up comedy. That's what I was doing before this. Obviously, I was very good because I'm now running a mental health charity. But I'm on a podcast, so you know. There you go, so there we go.
And you're a pro at podcasts.
Well, there you go. So yeah, it was lived experience. It was never knowing anything about mental health, not knowing anything about poor mental health, good mental health, knowing nothing about signs and symptoms of poor mental health, and basically struggling with my mental health and not knowing anything about it in the sense that I didn't know how I was feeling was a thing.
Okay. And not knowing where to go for
exactly. It was never a conversation that I ever had in school, at home. And it was very much having to piece together maybe things that I'd learned about mental health through films or TV, which is probably American TV. So very different to the reality. Yeah. And long story short, just over 10 years ago, I actually attempted to take my own life. And that was never anything that I, ever considered, thought I'd ever be, in that situation ever. And I decided to speak out about what I'd gone through. Okay. And in truth, it wasn't to help anyone. It was just to move on in my own recovery.
Yeah. And did you get help at that time?
Well, no. Okay. So, even like, I spoke to a GP and got medication, but that was just on a phone appointment. Yeah. I was very much kind of like left to deal with that. And so because I'd spent so long like hiding, pretending, not telling anyone the truth about how I was, where I was, how I was feeling, anything like that, I decided that if I was going to move on in my recovery, because suddenly through a suicide attempt, like my family, my girlfriend, everybody knew. Yeah. I decided that if I was going to move on in that recovery, then, I need to own it. Yeah. And speak publicly about what I'd gone through. And in truth, that was kind of the turning point in my life, because by speaking publicly about it, which I did do initially just through social media, my story went viral. Wow. And it was being shared. It was around the same time that Robin Williams took his own life. Okay. And so what happened was a lot of people within the media started to look for who's a comedian who is talking about this type of stuff. Okay. And so it got picked up initially in local press in Liverpool, but then it was being asked to go in national newspapers, go on national television, going on radio to talk about what I'd gone through.
That's quite a big thing to do.
I didn't realise how big it was, in truth. I think maybe if I did realise how big it was, I wouldn't have done it. But the one thing that I didn't realise was every single time I gave an interview, whether it was on, breakfast television like the Lorraine Kelly show or in an obscure local radio show in the middle of the night, people came to me asking me for help.
Wow.
And people coming to me on my own social media, finding my email address, and were messaging me like saying, I need help, I need support, I'm worried about somebody. People tell me that they were at crisis point themselves and needed me to talk them out of it.
That's massive, isn't it?
It was beyond anything I could ever have expected and prepared for. And what it kind of instilled within me was a couple of things. One, it made me realize the power of lived experience.
Yeah.
Because every time I was going back to these people, I'd say 9 times out of 10, I'd say, have you spoken to someone about this before? And they'd say no. Okay. And I think the lived experience and saying, this is how I felt.
Yeah.
Getting through to somebody to say, actually, I feel the same way. I thought I was the only one. Giving them the confidence, the encouragement to reach out for help and support.
Being able to see it in somebody else. And,
absolutely. And going, I'm not the only one. I thought you're describing how I felt. Yeah. But also, it made me realize just how many people were going through the same thing, or very, very much the same thing at the same time, all feeling like they're the only ones and not knowing the help and support that was available, myself included. I didn't know anything about the help and support that was available. So when people were coming to me, I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But what it did do is it gave me a fire in my belly. It gave me a purpose. I think it probably was the turning point for my own mental health as well, because obviously I'd come through a really difficult time.
Yeah.
I think it gave me a purpose, gave me a fire in my belly, and it was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do now. And the very clear thing for me was that I need to go and find help that's available, so that I can help people go and reach that help and support. And so that's where the Hub of Hope came from. It came as a concept of let's bring all help and support that's available in one place. Yeah. Initially, that started as a spreadsheet on my own computer. And what started as like 10, 20 different organizations.
Massive, isn't it?
It's 14,000 services now.
Wow.
Listed on the Hub of Hope.
Nationally.
Right across the country.
Wow.
And that is organizations of all kinds, because that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make one place for everything. So it doesn't matter if it's older people, younger people. Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's NHS support or it's voluntary sector or private, or even peer support groups, organizations or people who meet to go for a walk and a talk or go for a knit and natter or wherever it might be. We want to bring everything together and then empower people to be able to go on and find what they feel is right for them. What we're not trying to do is replace any other support. We're not saying it's one or the other. Yeah. But we're trying to integrate now with, whether that is integrating with NHS services, which I'm sure we'll talk about more, integrating with the services, being able to get support while you're getting support somewhere else, being able to get support while you're on a waiting list, being able to get support after you've come out of services, for example. Yeah. So we just want to give people options and choices.
Fantastic. And that bit about, people come to different stages in their mental health journey, don't they? And as you said, some people could be in crisis, some people could be in recovery, being in an inpatient unit, coming out, being discharged. When I've gone on to the Hub of Hope, it is really easy to follow. It's quite self-explanatory, isn't it? You click your boxes, you put in your postcode or your town where you live, and that information, that support comes up.
If it was going to be complicated, it wouldn't be me doing it. Okay. So it was, I wanted to, so in all honesty, Chris, I looked at like things that were like very simple in my life. Things like if I traveled somewhere in the country, I've never been there before, but I wanted a takeaway. Yeah. Or I wanted a taxi. I go on an app and I'd see what's available and I make a choice. It's like, I can be born and bred, live my entire life in a city or town and not know about the help and support that's on my doorstep. Yeah. So we wanted to make it as simple as possible. And yes, it the current setup is you can type in a city, town, a postcode or nothing at all. Just press find nearby services and it'll use the location of your phone or device that you're using, and it'll pinpoint the nearest support to you. Or you can search for anywhere else, search for a specific town or postcode. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to go from point A being someone's about to look for help and support, and point B being they find the help and support. We wanted to make that point A to point B as quick as possible. There's conversations in early days about, do we ask questions? Do we go through a questionnaire where you can almost diagnose what type of help and support you're looking at? And then we also looked at rating systems, and do you rate services that are in there, and then you get ratings. And we basically decided, let's just make that journey as simple as possible. However, that being said, we have got 14,000 services now, and it's a very fair argument that it can be overwhelming to suddenly be given a list. So right now, after a number of years since we launched the app and the way that we've grown, we are now looking at that user journey. We're looking at that redesign. We're looking at what we can do. We're taking in feedback from people who have used it. But ultimately, it will always be the easiest way from somebody to need and want help and support and find help and support.
And that bit that you're continually refining it and taking the service user feedback, lived experience into creating it to be, I suppose, the next step, the next iteration of Hub of Hope is fantastic, isn't it?
I think it was a colleague that we brought on board early this year. Who's our head of digital and development, and I think she said, "You'll never be finished. You'll never be finished. You constantly grow, you constantly learn, you constantly adapt and change, because the world constantly adapts and changes, and people's needs and way of working constantly change. So it'll never be finished, and I think we've got to remain fresh, and we've got to remain in a position where maybe at the early days you don't worry about that too much, you more worry about launching it. But now
you just refine it, and
you make it fresh.
So Hub, the portal's the Hub of Hope. That's where you go. Chasing the Stigma, and I love that that title of the charity, because that's what we should all be around, talking about mental health, good mental health, bad mental health, reality, isn't it? How does the Chasing the Stigma link into Hub of Hope?
So as I said, the Chasing the Stigma is the charity. So that's our kind of our body of our kind of who we are, what we represent, the lobbying side of things, the representation side of things. So what we've kind of set ourselves up as a charity is being the everyday voice, just the absolute ordinary voice of people. As I said, I've not come into this as a professional who speaks the jargon, knows the clinical side of things. I was somebody who just spoke as a person about my own experiences, and actually that related to so many people. What we want to do as a charity is we want to kind of connect and appeal to the people who would never use mental health services. We want to appeal to the people who would never usually go to a GP surgery to talk about the mental health, who would never usually go to any statutory services to talk about the mental health. We want to go to where they are. So let's go to people. Let's give them that information in the way that they would engage, the places where they would go, where they shop or where they drink, and let's give it to them in a way that maybe they can relate to, and they can just hear it in a different way. And that's why we use our voice, not my voice, the voice of people. We don't use clinical language. We don't use jargon. We try to have that really ordinary approach. And what's really key about what we do at Chasing the Stigma is that we partner with as many people as possible. So again, we don't, whether it's through the Hub of Hope, we have a training program as well called Ambassadors of Hope. Whether it's through any of these, what we try to do is we try to say, well, we've got some of the tools. Let's partner with you and let's get them out there. So we partner with pub groups, we partner with shopping centres, we partner with car parks, we partner with as many different people as we possibly can to, again, go where the everyday folk are, give them that message as they go about their daily lives, and not put the onus on them to come and ask for that help and support. Let's go to them.
That Ambassadors of Hope, that sounds really good.
So with the Ambassadors of Hope, what the idea behind the training is, well, what the idea is to make people experts. So we're not going to make you an expert. It doesn't matter if you do 2-day course or a week course, you're still not an expert anyway. But what I was very aware of was everyone has mental health.
Yeah.
And everyone should have the basic skills knowledge to understand what mental health means.
Okay.
Because so many people, the amount of times that I tell people what I do, and they'll say, "Oh, I know someone who had mental health." It's like, okay, so here's the big misunderstanding here about what we mean by mental health. So originally I wrote the training to be as quick as possible.
Okay.
So it's under an hour, the training. And again, written from a lived experience point of view, but delivered from a lived experience point of view as well. So all of our trainers have lived experience. Oh. And what our aim is to go into an organization and train every member of staff.
Yeah.
So what we're not doing is putting certain people on a pedestal and say, right, only some people have mental health training. We're saying everybody's got mental health, so everybody deserves
like a mental health
training.
First aider.
Exactly, but every person is. Okay. And then obviously you can have tiered approach. So again, everything about what we do is not about competition. It's about collaboration. So, you will have a mental health first aider from Mental Health First Aid, for example.
Yeah.
That absolutely still have those, but then we'll train everybody else as well.
That's fantastic.
So we go into an organisation, we train as many people as we possibly can, whether that's from NHS trusts to we're prepared to apply to the Premier League, construction sites, universities, as many people as we possibly can, again, shopping centres and pubs, where people are, and upskilling people, ideally in a non-clinical, non-jargon focused, ordinary way, delivered by people with lived experience, to just try and push.
There's such a power of lived experience and hearing that voice. So totally think that's fantastic.
I think what it does, it breaks down any awkwardness sometimes. I think sometimes people, we know, I delivered the training in the early days. You'd go into a room and as people are walking in going, "What are we doing?" You say mental health training, you go, "Oh," and people roll their eyes and especially on without kind of stereotyping, but on a building site, for example, and they go, "I've got a job to do here. I've got to do this."
Yeah.
As soon as you kind of start saying, "Listen, I'm talking about me."
Yeah.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. And then that breaks down that awkwardness. It breaks down that kind of distrust.
Yeah.
Almost that you're just going to lecture me here. And through lived experience, then you're able to get through to people. So it's been a
fantastic
core part of everything that we do.
And for people that are listening that live within Lancashire and South Cumbria, and that's obviously the area where we cover as an organisation. If you knew about Hub of Hope or you came onto our trust website, there's signposting to Hub of Hope. Do you do marketing on social media? How do you get out? We've got posters that we're putting up across our sites, but you'd have to have come to us to have seen that. I suppose going back to when you started, Jake, and you talked about not knowing where to go.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose if you were there one evening just scrolling up like social media, does the Hub of Hope, are you on there? How do people, I suppose, if you didn't know where to go, how would it jump out at you?
Yeah, so, by the way, as I came in here, I did see Hub of Hope cards.
Yeah, we've got the business
posters,
cards. Yeah.
When I got a little glass of water and saw that, so I took a little photo to send to everyone back at the office. Again, we've got our own social media presence. What we like to do with partners that we work with, let's just take NHS Trust, for example. We want it to be part of your internal processes that you have, as well as your external processes that you have in terms of, anyone that you engage with. There's a lot of NHS Trusts who will engage with the local community and push that out to the local community. There's been trusts who have trained people within their community, via ourselves. We're on our own social media, and then it's about how do we look at the insights? How do we look at the what does the population look like within the trust area? Which obviously your trust is very big area and complex as well. But then what we would like to do is we'd like to be then looking at, well, who can we partner now to complement our partnership?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get that message out there. But as I said, we're on social medias, everyone apart from I don't think we're on Snapchat yet because I don't want to be doing any dances or anything.
No, I can understand that.
But yeah, we're just trying to push our message out there.
And I know our comms team push out through our social media stuff, and you've also done. We have a thing called the Harry Bus, which is where it goes. We drive out into communities, and I know your team have been out with the Harry Bus as well, which is
we have,
which is really good.
And that's just what we want to do. Is collaboration is absolutely vital. Okay. I believe that collaboration is much wider in this conversation than just what we're doing with yourselves, but collaboration is key. No, not one person, not one organization can achieve it all.
Yeah,
and I think what we're trying to do is move away from this idea that we work in silos, that we work in competition, that we work because of politics or funding or rivalry. Too many people just try to do everything themselves. Not one person or organization can. We can't. You can't. But if we kind of work together, we can play our part. You play your part. Other people can play their part.
And if the focus is on the service user, the patient, that's got to be the key, hasn't it? And talked about the services that are on Hub of Hope, and it is really easy to find services. How do you validate the services that are going on the Hub of Hope so that if people are listening to this now, go on and find a service that would support them, that service is it regulated? Is it how do you safeguard against that?
Yeah, so this is probably the biggest challenge that we have. Because there's and actually I think this is the power of the VCSE sector as opposed to the statutory services, because we have much more agility when it comes to how we work. Any service can register to be on the Hub of Hope. Anyone. You could make one up now and send it through.
And you talked about like walking groups that are on there.
Yeah, exactly.
So a real spectrum of
but
support.
What we wouldn't do is you don't automatically go on it. So I said you could make up a service now and register it. That doesn't mean that you go on the Hub of Hope.
Right.
So they would come through to our team. So we have a team. We have a Hub of Hope team as well as a training team, marketing and partnerships. So that will come through to our team.
Yeah.
And every single registered service will be checked.
Okay.
So that will be validated through Charities Commission, Companies House, etc. We'll be contacting the services as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at the websites and everything else that they have, contacting them to make sure that details are correct and up to date, etc. All services, if they go live, all services are only on there for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And then they have to be checked.
Okay.
So no service should go without being checked for more than 6 months.
Okay.
So they should
an initial check, then go live, published on the Hub, and then you go and do subsequent checks.
That's right. And there won't be any service that's on there that hasn't been checked in a year. So we'll always have those checks. So I think it's 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months is that we'll have different checks. And basically what we're trying to do is give people the options.
Yeah.
So as long as it's valid, it's up to date, it is safe.
Yeah.
We've got a QA process that we have that, certain things are not deemed as safe or ethical or whatever. As long as it's there, we put it on there and we allow people to make a decision based on what they feel is right for them. And that's really important when I talk about the agility. It's really, really important that because sometimes there's organizations that might say, for example, we don't have any religious-based organizations on there. That's what somebody might say. Now, I believe that shouldn't be my decision.
Yeah.
What works for one person, as long as it's safe, as long as it's legitimate as an organization, it's not going to cause harm to somebody, then why should I decide whether we list that or not? So, we are as agile as we can be whilst being safe, to give people the options, give people the choices and allow them to find the services that they would like to find. And to come back to a point that I made before about, we talked about rating services at one point. And again, we decided against that because, again, what is right for one person is not necessarily right for somebody else. Yeah. That being said, there's an option under every listing to report anything. So if you can, maybe let's just say for argument's sake, the information was wrong.
Yeah.
Or you had a bad experience at a certain service and you wanted to almost
whistleblow. That feedback loop.
Yeah. So you would be able to report that. that would come back into us, that would go off the live site, and then our team would then be able to check and look into that really and find out what the issue is.
And that bit about, I mean, that's fantastic about that validation loop, isn't it? That continually happens. You talked about, someone who might be struggling with their own mental health and reaching out. What if there's a family, a friend, a colleague? Can they access the Hub of Hope for support to see how they can support their friend, loved one, colleague?
Quite simply, if a service exists, it can be on the Hub of Hope.
Okay.
So there's options on there for carers and family support, I think.
Okay.
And we know that there's so many organisations, such as, just taking two for example, in Winston's Wish or Papyrus, for example, which will offer a lot of support to parents who are worrying.
Yeah.
So basically, as long as it is there, then as long as it exists, it can be on the Hub of Hope.
Yeah.
And being able to look for advice for as a parent or a carer or anybody that you are worried about, then you can be going on there and looking for that help and support and advice. So there's another one as well, which is advice and support.
Okay.
So when I say another one, these are the options within the Hub of Hope. Yeah. So we can filter down your search based on what it is that you're looking for.
Fab. I mean, I just think the whole concept is amazing, Jake, and to think that you came up with this idea, in your bedroom at your mum's house after, a really challenging period in your life. You just think the amount of people that you have directly supported through Hub of Hope must be amazing.
Do you know what? It's something that, just speaking personally, because there's a team behind this, and they work incredibly hard, and the growth of the Hub of Hope since we've had that team has been phenomenal. Speaking personally, I don't often think about it in terms of what we achieve, and I think this maybe it's just the way that I work. It's always just about what next, and there's times, and just one that just comes to mind because it was last year, and I was doing parkrun.
Oh, okay.
And I had one of our t-shirts on, and on the back of the t-shirt it says Hub of Hope on it, and it's got stuff. And I was just running, and there was two women behind me, and they were talking about the Hub of Hope. And they said one woman was explaining the Hub of Hope to the other one, and so she was saying it's got all this help and support on there. And then the person she was talking to was like, "Do you know what? I just think that's exactly what I've needed, and I've been waiting for almost a sign." And I didn't turn around and say it was me, but I made sure that I won as well, just for the advertising. But it's just little moments like that. We have to accept, and I say this to the team, is that we have to accept to some level that we'll never know. We will never know the true impact of what we do. But I've got no doubt that we save lives every single day, and you just have to trust that, believe in that, and use it to just keep pushing us on.
That's saving lives and supporting families and friends. It's just so important, isn't it? There's a reason
inspirational. It's a reason it's called the Hub of Hope, because and why hope is so important to everything that we do with the training as well, is that it's the essence of what it is. We're not a service in the sense that we're not hands-on helping people with their issues or anything that they're going through themselves. But what we can do is just be that hope, give them that hope, give them that help, give them that support, help them on the way. And there's a certain level of acceptance that's part of that you're just part of that journey. As long as you can offer that hope to them and get them on, then we've done our job.
Perfect. Fab. Thanks so much for coming in, Jake. It's been really good. And hopefully you've just promoted the Hub of Hope just that bit more. Keep doing what you're doing. It's fab.
No, and thank you for all your support and everything that the Trust have done. It's been amazing. Thank you.
No worries. Cool.
Thank you.